Mike McCool here in the Royal Examiner studio, and with me today I have local entrepreneur. Do you like that? Rick Novak.
Oh, thank
Rick
you.
is a purveyor is that how you say that? Purveyor? Proprietor?
You're the printer and the publicist. And
Maybe
yes.
the Royal Cinemas, and also the family
Royal
proper name.
Royal Family Bowling Center.
I know it's got a long name.
And we got a big event coming there next week too. But we're here to talk about.
Let's talk about. You got a real special event starting tomorrow, I think.
Yeah, tomorrow.
In this movie, and it's called Join or Die.
And none of you have ever heard of it. Probably,
I
right?
never heard of it until I started researching the story, and it's quite interesting. Why don't you tell us how you got involved in bringing this movie to town?
Sure. Last fall, Brett Herbeck, who is our Rotary District Governor, he leads our district, which runs from Winchester down to Johnson City, Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
He heard about it, and so then we signed up to take a look at it. We saw a screener of it in advance of its release to theaters, and so we watched it, and then we started talking about how to fit it in to try and play it at the movie theater. Mm-hmm. I had hoped to do it in the fall, but it didn't work out. But I'm really committed to doing it, now for our community. And this is not about Rotary. It's not about. It's just about people. We need to be interacting with each other.
On our society and our culture.
Yeah, I mean, and so the title I think is very apt. It's Join or Die.
Right. So it's a membership type movie, right?
Well, I mean, so what I'll say is that if you watch the movie, they talk to all sorts of different groups. They start out talking with a group called Oddfellows, which some of you may or may not be familiar with. And Rotary is a group that's touched on it at some point. Bowling leagues, they're talked about.
Political people,
politics, churches. And I mean, this is a movie for everybody who is in organizations or thinking about being in organizations, and so they can understand why it's important to join clubs, sports organizations, churches. We got to be connected to each other.
Right.
Our cell phones are great for communication. They're great for communication.
We do everything but
absolutely
talk to people on it.
Yeah, I called you just before this meeting and said, "Hey, can we push up this interview?" Right. So that's awesome. But this digital thing, it's great, but it is not. It is not.
Well, I just talked to my daughter. She's in Indonesia.
Okay.
And the phone's ringing. There you are, right there.
Right.
And so,
they're awesome, but our society is so dependent on the internet and social media. And social media is not social at all.
No.
I mean, it is better than not doing the joining of groups, churches, and and such, but it's not social. It's really kind of antisocial. It should just be a tool in the toolbox. You can't fix everything with a screwdriver or a hammer.
Right.
You got to have various tools, and you got to be a part of the community fabric that you live in.
Right. I asked you, I said, well, how long has this been going on? And I just thought, in the Bible in Hebrews, it tells us, Hebrews 10:25, do not forsake the assembly, as some such have been doing. And that was the first century. So maybe we've been forsaking the fellowship.
Well, the guy that they follow around, Robert Putnam, he studied this for decades. I mean, I think it's, I'm not exactly sure, but it is at least 3 decades, maybe 4. And he saw some trends, and they talk about them. And matter of fact, one of the people, one of the directors, was actually a student of his, and so we're going to have out his sister Friday to do a Q&A after the movie. The movie's at 7:00, and then we're going to do a Q&A after. But the movie will be playing all week at the theater, and I would say that. If there's any educators out there and you want your students to see this, we'll put together a movie on your schedule in the coming months for you to come and see this, to show it to school groups, because it's really that important. It is really that important.
So bring the school bus, park on Main Street, let them all out.
Park in the back parking lot.
Well, you know what I mean, right?
Yeah, I know what you
and
mean.
let them go on in.
Yeah.
Is there a special movie rate for this show, or?
I'm actually showing this in a couple of weeks to the district conference,
Right.
And so I'm trying to help pay for that.
Sure.
I sponsored that for $1,000,
Sure.
and so I'm charging a regular ticket price for
Okay.
this.
But it's well worth it.
But listen, if you can't afford the ticket price, come to the door and we'll just give you a pass, or we'll sell you a ticket at a reduced rate. Shh, be quiet, because the distributor for this movie doesn't want me to hear that. But that'll be on me. That'll be on me, because I want everybody to see this movie. It is not commercially attractive in any way, shape, or form, but it is important. It's important.
Yeah. How long does it run?
It's about a 2-hour movie.
That's what I thought. Somebody said like 90 minutes or 2 hours. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's really powerful. So when the movie's over, how are we going to feel? What's the emotion that we're going to go after?
We have a big challenge.
Yeah.
But we got to take on this challenge. We have to take on this challenge.
Yeah.
As a society, we have to take on this challenge.
Sometimes, things are so close to us, we don't really notice the being reduced, the social contact that we have.
Absolutely.
And it's just been so easy. And COVID, like you said, it's been going on, because now, like in the 50s, that was a boom for churches, for instance. All through the 50s, churches grew like leaps and bounds after the war.
Right.
But since then, it's been declining. Mm-hmm. And then COVID just brought it out. I know the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts, the Rotary, bowling leagues, churches, you name it, have the membership is just well. I was talking to the South Ruraltons. I mean, they're down to a handful of people, and as you well know, and a lot of groups are just
I bumped into one of them at breakfast, and I said, "Bring some of your guys, to come.
We'll come up with some, maybe you'll give us some ideas."
Absolutely, but I mean, I don't know if we have any solutions, but at least we're identifying the problem.
Right. Yeah.
Be
aware.
In this. Be aware. Yeah. Exactly. I mean, COVID actually, as we were talking before the interview started, I think it escalated what was already happening. Just like a lot,
because the technology was there.
Absolutely. And there were a lot of good things in a way. I mean, I hate to say this, because COVID was really hard on both my businesses.
Sure.
But there were good things that came out of COVID too. I mean, I had really never been on a Zoom before, which I would rather be in a room having a conversation with you, because I think it's going to be a better meeting.
Right.
But if I can Zoom, instead of having an in-person meeting
in California
once a year, if I can Zoom with you once a quarter or once a month, that is much better.
Sure.
But I still like to be in person, because I don't know why, there's kind of an energy, at least for me there is, and it's just better feedback than.
Well, it's kind of like playing golf. More business is done on the golf course because you're face to face with people, and than over the phone or something else. And it's like going to these trade shows. You go to a lot of those as well. It's not so much the event; it's that talking one-on-one with like-minded people.
Yeah.
And I think you get that. All of a sudden, man, you'll get this idea that you never would have got just by either watching them, doing something, or just attending a session and listening to somebody talk for an hour.
100%.
But walking the floors, that's what I like to do.
One of my favorite things about a trade show is walking the floor and all the ideas that come up that I wasn't looking for.
Right.
They're organic ideas that just happen, and I'm like, oh, I had never really thought about that.
And how they're displaying it. I always like to go up the rows where they're just little tiny guys, that are kind of stuck off to the side because they can't afford the big space. I tell you, I bought a $5 squeegee there 20 years ago, and we still use that thing every day. And I've never seen one before, you know what I mean? So you find all sorts of little things.
I mean, sometimes I go up the trade show floors, and we can
diversity.
But anyway, sometimes I go up the trade show floors, and I'm like, don't talk to me. Don't engage with me.
Right? I'll buy it. Right?
But then other time, but at least 2 or 3 times on every trade show, I listen to somebody that I don't really want to listen to.
Right.
And about a third of the time, I walk away feeling, matter of fact, somebody re-engaged with me the other day about...
And that's kind of like the premise of what this movie's all about.
Yeah. So back to the movie.
Okay.
Being together is always better than being apart.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and that's one of the things that COVID did to churches. Churches actually, there was a lot of, you know, because we were all afraid, churches took different stances, and some of their members left. If church was really hyper vigilant about safety, some members left churches
And never came back.
and they never came back because they went and found a church, that wasn't. But so we just need to be connected to one another.
Yeah.
And this movie is not political in any way, shape, or form. But it does talk about saving our democracy through our social interaction.
Right.
So.
Well, it sounds interesting. So let's talk about the director will be there, and
Yep,
people have questions.
Rebecca Davis is driving out from Washington D.C.
Okay.
that evening, and so we're going to do a Q&A with her, and we'll talk to her as long as she wants to talk. As long as
Well, it's good. And you had just last month or so, you had a movie there. You had something about our integration here at our high school. And
yeah, we did that. We did
knocking
down walls, and that was
well, it was
great.
well attended, wasn't it?
It was very well attended, and actually they sent me an email yesterday or the day before that said they want to make that an annual thing, and so I'm really excited to build bridges. Is one of the things that came out of knocking down walls is to build bridges, because now they've sort of done their thing telling about the history. Now it's time to build bridges.
Right.
So,
That sounds like it.
Yeah.
It's interesting, and like I say, we're going to show up there, and we'll see how the movie is.
Yeah.
And it'll be very interesting.
Well, I hope so.
I think so too.
I mean, I think it will be.
And I hope we see more things like this from you, because I know you're pretty innovative and looking for.
Yeah, I am. And honestly, all honesty, the studios have given me an opportunity to feature these kind of things because they're doing a crappy job.
Yeah.
Because COVID affected them too.
Oh,
all right,
big time, yeah.
And then there was the writers' strike after that and whatnot. So when there are opportunities, I am going to try and feature something like this.
And there's a lot of these type of movies out there.
Oh, absolutely.
Lots of things.
I had a conversation with Melissa Ichiuji, and we're talking about trying to put together a film club.
Yeah.
We tried one before, but we just didn't get the right fit, and so anyway, we'll work on
tons
movies.
Of stuff, tons of stuff.
Yeah.
In fact, there's so many you got to. We don't do anything because it's we can't make a choice, so.
Right.
But it's great. I'm just glad you're doing it. We'll go ahead and we'll follow up with this. We'll go to the movie, and we want to encourage it. And I like the idea about trying to encourage groups and schools and to bring your group.
So and I want to revisit that, Superintendent.
Pay attention to that, Chris. Right?
Chris Ballinger. This movie is really important, and we'll figure out an economical way for kids to come. The license on it is really easy to get, and our kids need to see this. From middle school to high school, it probably would resonate.
Right.
So.
When we will have some angels drop some coins on it, some shekels, to help fund this thing, so we can pay these fees, and we can maybe get it into the schools. That'd be great.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, it'd be great.
Yeah, and we can look at that too. If they can't come to the theater, let's show it in the schools.
Yeah, we'll bring it to you.
We'll bring it to the schools. Absolutely.
That sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, definitely.
That's a lot easier than schlepping a bunch of kids around.
Absolutely.
But I think it's a good idea.
Okay.
Well, I'll put a bug in their ear.
Great. Mention it in your story.
I will. I'm going to do that. Thanks again, Rick. I appreciate all that you do.
This is really important, guys, to our future as a democratic society and an American society.
And we're going to have you back next week to talk about that event at the bowling alley.
Yeah, PBA 50, Betty.
I know it. Well, then we got Vessel Lee's talk about. So we got a lot to talk about next week or so. So we'll get you back.
All right, thank you.
Thanks a lot, Rick.